20 years of marriage don't prepare you for betrayal. They lull you. They wrap you in a false sense of permanence, like nothing could fracture something built over decades. I thought we were unbreakable. Turns out I was just blind. It started with perfume. Jasmine. Soft, floral, haunting. A fragrance she hadn't worn since we visited Paris for our 10th anniversary. That trip, we shared croissants in bed, danced in moonlight, made love beneath open windows. That scent was tied to memories I held like treasures. Until last week. I came home early from work. The lights in the hallway were dim, her favorite jazz playlist drifting from the bedroom. That in itself wasn't strange. Elara had always been one for ambience, but it was the laughter that made me pause. Light. Effortless. The kind I hadn't heard from her in months. I peeked around the corner. She stood in front of the mirror, curling her hair, adjusting earrings I hadn't seen in years. A deep red dress clung to her like silk against fire. Elegant. Dangerous. Too provocative for dinner with friends. "Elara?" I said. She startled. "I didn't hear you come in." "Clearly." I stepped inside, leaning against the doorway. "Hot date." She rolled her eyes. "Ava's in town. We're grabbing dinner, catching up." I stared at her reflection. Ava moved to Boulder. Her fingers froze mid-curl. "She's visiting." Convenient. She met my gaze in the mirror, but didn't speak. That silence told me more than any excuse could. I nodded slowly, backing out of the room. "Enjoy your night." She didn't chase after me. She didn't apologize or explain. She simply returned to her reflection, smoothing lipstick across her mouth, the same lips that once whispered forever against my skin. At 7:32, she walked past me, heels clicking against the hardwood. "Don't wait up," she said. I didn't. I followed. Call it pathetic, obsessive, foolish, but 20 years of love doesn't vanish without a fight. I slipped into my car, trailed her through traffic, kept my distance. She didn't even glance back. 10 minutes later, she climbed into a sleek black coupe parked at the edge of town. The man inside was younger, tan, dressed like a boutique mannequin. He grinned like he'd won a prize. Elara laughed, God, she laughed, and leaned over to kiss his cheek. I didn't know whether to scream or throw up. Instead, I drove home. Our bedroom still smelled like her perfume. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the photo on her nightstand. The two of us in Santorini, wind whipping her hair, my arm around her waist. We looked happy. Real. But now? Now I wasn't even sure who I was married to. I opened my laptop and stared at the blinking cursor. My hands trembled, but not from heartbreak. From rage. From a strange, unfamiliar hunger stirring inside my gut. She thought I'd sit here and do nothing. She forgot who I was. Back in college, before Elara softened my rough edges, I had a reputation. Not a cruel one, just calculated. I studied patterns, played the long game, knew how to move pieces on the board. I'd let her forget that side of me. Maybe it was time to reintroduce him. I created a new profile on an upscale dating site, discreet, members only, elite. I used a different name, a different city, a different past. Within 2 hours, I had 3 women asking for drink. Within 4, I was messaging someone named Camille. Divorced. Fiery. Smart as hell. Said she liked men with scars. Physical or emotional, didn't matter. Claimed mystery was better than predictability. We made plans for the weekend. Downtown rooftop bar. Sunset drinks. No expectations. I didn't feel guilty. Not one bit. If Elara was going to rediscover herself, I could too. But unlike her, I wasn't going to lie about it. I wasn't hiding behind fake dinners or imaginary friends. I wasn't cheating. Not yet. But I was damn sure close. Saturday came fast. I shaved for the first time in weeks, ironed a dark button-down, added a touch of cologne I hadn't worn since my brother's wedding. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. Less husband, more mystery. Less burdened man, more sharp edge. Camille picked the rooftop bar. Candlelight flickered on every table, and soft electronic beats pulsed through the warm air. She walked in wearing confidence like a second skin, tall, raven-haired, legs like poetry. Her smile was unfiltered, her eyes holding no shadows. I stood, pulled her chair out. She gave me a look that said I'd already earned point. "You clean up well," she teased, sipping her drink. "Not bad for someone in marital purgatory." She leaned forward, elbows on the table. "So, she doesn't know you're here?" "She's busy with her own date-night adventures." Camille laughed, no pity in her voice. "Well, cheers to mutual freedom." Glasses clinked. Bourbon burned. Her scent, vanilla and smoke, wrapped around me like temptation. She wasn't like Alara. Camille was unapologetically wild, expressive, a woman with nothing left to prove. The conversation flowed with ease. Books, travel, childhood regrets, odd obsessions. I told her I once climbed onto my high school's roof, just to watch the sunrise alone. She said she once skinny-dipped in Icelandic hot springs with strangers. By the time the sun dipped beneath the skyline, her hand brushed mine across the table. "I don't sleep with married men," she said, voice soft, "but you don't feel married anymore." "I'm not," I replied. "Not where it matters." We took a walk through the city, her heels clicking against the pavement. Neon lights bounced off her hair. Everything felt new, crisp, unwritten. We stopped beneath a street lamp. She looked up at me like she'd already memorized my features. "You gonna kiss me or just stare?" So I kissed her. It wasn't rushed or messy. It was slow, deep, hungry, not for flesh but connection. The kind I hadn't felt in years. Her hands gripped my collar. My world tipped sideways. For a second, I forgot Alara existed. That night, Camille didn't invite me upstairs. We didn't tangle limbs in tangled sheet. She kissed me once more at her door, touched my cheek, and whispered, "You're not done becoming someone else yet." That hit me harder than any touch. I drove home with the windows down, my heart pounding like I was 20 again. For the first time in forever, I didn't feel like a ghost in my own life. But as I walked inside, Alara was waiting, curled on the couch, red dress wrinkled, shoes tossed aside. She looked up from a glass of wine. "Where were you?" she asked. I shrugged. "Out." She raised an eyebrow. "Doing what?" I met her gaze and didn't flinch. "Meeting someone." Silence stretched. "The kind you feel more than hear." "You don't even care anymore, do you?" she said, voice barely above a whisper. I did. For a long time. She swallowed hard. "So that's it?" "No," I said, stepping closer. "That's the beginning." Her face twisted, confusion, guilt, regret, maybe even fear. She wasn't expecting this version of me. The version who wouldn't beg. The version who didn't chase her lies. I walked past her without another word. In the bedroom, I took off my shirt and stared at the ceiling. The smell of jasmine still clung to the pillows. But this time, it didn't haunt me. It motivated me. The silence between us thickened. Alara no longer bothered pretending. Her eyes were distant, her phone always locked, and her smile, when it appeared, never belonged to me. We coexisted, two strangers bound by faded vows and half-buried resentment. But I wasn't broken anymore. I was evolving. Camille texted every morning. Quick words, short and charged. "Dreamt of you, coffee and chaos today, still thinking about that kiss." She didn't crowd me. She didn't ask for declarations. She just existed in a way that made the air lighter. We met again the following weekend. An art gallery downtown. Abstract strokes, twisted metal sculptures, rooms filled with emotion bleeding from canvas. Camille walked beside me, her fingers brushing mine like we'd always belonged in each other's orbit. She stopped at a piece that looked like a storm trapped in glass. "This," she whispered, "feels like you." "Fractured?" I asked. "Contained. But barely." That night, we didn't part so easily. She invited me to her loft, an open space filled with books, music, mismatched furniture. It felt like someone lived there with passion, not obligation. She poured wine, removed her boots, curled on the couch like a cat ready to pounce. We talked for hours. Then talking gave way to something else. Her body wasn't perfect. It was better. Real. Warm. Responsive. Every sigh from her mouth ignited something in me I'd long buried. I wasn't just making love, I was rediscovering myself through skin, breath, motion. Afterward, she lay against my chest, tracing circles on my skin. "What now?" she asked. "I don't know," I admitted. "But I'm not going back to the man who let himself disappear." She nodded, eyes closed. "Don't." The next morning, I drove home with sunlight spilling across the dashboard. I walked into a house that once felt like safety but now felt more like theater. Actors hitting marks, speaking lines, pretending they hadn't destroyed each other behind the curtain. Elara stood in the kitchen, still in her robe, sipping coffee. "You were out all night," she said flatly. "So were you," I replied. She turned, lips twitching in annoyance. "At least I had the decency not to bring someone home." I chuckled, low and bitter. "Decency? Is that what you call sneaking around with some boy toy behind my back while I was breaking my back to keep this life afloat?" She didn't respond. Guilt flickered for half a second, then vanished. "I don't love him," she said, staring into her cup. "Then why do it?" I wanted to feel wanted again. The honesty hit me sideways. Not because it excused her, but because I understood. I'd felt invisible for years too. Maybe we both failed. Maybe we stopped seeing each other long before she kissed another man. "I'm not here to punish you, Elara," I said quietly. "I'm here to leave you behind." She turned to face me fully now, her voice cracking. "So it's really over?" "It's been over," I replied. "We just didn't say it out loud." She didn't cry. Neither did I. That night, I packed a bag. Essentials. A few clothes. My journals. A framed picture of my father. I didn't take the wedding photo from the hallway. I didn't need it. Elara didn't try to stop me. She simply stood by the stairs, watching as I opened the front door. "Where will you go?" I paused, one foot outside. "Somewhere I can be wanted again." Then I shut the door behind me. And I didn't look back. I didn't crash on a friend's couch. I didn't check into a hotel. I went straight to Camille's. When I knocked, she opened the door with sleep still in her eyes, wearing one of those oversized t-shirts that looked better on her than anything designer ever could. She blinked, surprised, but didn't ask questions. Just stepped aside and let me in. I dropped my bag in the entryway and exhaled like I hadn't in years. "Bad night?" she asked softly. "No," I said. "It was a good ending." She smiled, tugged me inside, and made coffee while I stood there feeling free. Not lighter, exactly. Just real. Like all the masks had finally come off. The man she saw was the man I was becoming, scarred, reshaped, burning quietly from the inside out. She didn't treat me like a project. She didn't pry into old wounds. She just passed me a mug and leaned on the counter beside me. "You staying?" I looked at her, really looked. The faint laugh lines near her eyes, the chipped polish on her nails, the genuine calm in her posture. "If that's still okay." "It is," she said, brushing her knuckles against mine. "But don't just run from her. Run toward yourself." That line stuck with me. I didn't need vengeance. I didn't need to tear Elara down or parade Camille like a trophy. I needed to build something again, from the ruins, yes, but on my terms. Over the next few weeks, I found clarity in the simple things. Waking beside someone who asked about my dreams. Making breakfast without silent tension simmering between cabinet. Laughing mid-conversation without weighing every word. I met Camille's friends. We hiked trails that cut through fog-drenched forests. We danced in the living room when the power went out. We kissed during thunderstorms like teenagers in the rain. Elara called once. Just once. I answered. "I didn't expect you to pick up," she said quietly. "I figured I owed you that." "Was he worth it?" I asked. She hesitated. "No. He was just different." "I get it," I replied. So was Camille. I guess we broke each other before either of us noticed, she said. Yeah. But we kept pretending it wasn't already over. Long silence. Then, finally, I'm sorry. I forgive you, I said. But I'm not coming back. I know. Click. No dramatic finale. No screaming. No begging. Just closure. I stood by the window for a while, watching leaves drift past like pieces of old memories. When Camille came in, I kissed her like the last 20 years had led me to this one moment. Not to erase my past, but to make peace with it. One night, lying on the couch, she curled up beside me and whispered, "Do you ever miss her?" I didn't lie. Sometimes I miss who we used to be. But not who we became. She nodded, her cheek against my chest. That's fair. We didn't define anything right away. No declarations. No pressure. Just two people rebuilding their own truth. But every time I looked at her, I felt something I hadn't in years. Hope. Not the naive kind. Not the fairy tale. Just the quiet belief that healing wasn't some distant place. It was already here, in every touch, every smile, every honest breath. And for the first time in 2 decades, I wasn't surviving. I was living.